Hello and welcome to another episode of the Maxi-Geek Show. Today is Saturday, September 17th. Normally we have these on a Friday, but with the Tokyo Game Show running full steam over the last 2 days, today and still tomorrow, there was a whole lot of showcases happening last night. Bandai Namco, Konami, Koei Tecmo, Sega, and, half a dozen more earlier in the day. It just wasn't feasible for us to record, while things were still happening. There's still showcases happening now. Bandai Namco have a streaming happening. Square Enix have one right now. I have it on in the other room. So there's still plenty of news coming out, but we wanted to get into some of the news, from the start of the week, which maybe you've forgotten already because of how crazy this week has been. It is not a hyperbole to say that this week has felt more like E3 than the week in June did. We had the Disney and Marvel Games Showcase on the Saturday morning. We had the Ubisoft Forward on Sunday morning. We had the Nintendo Direct, at midnight on Wednesday, and then PlayStation's State of Play at 8 a.m. on Wednesday, and then a bunch of showcases on Thursday, and then yesterday. It's just been absolutely insane. So, excuse me, rather than deep diving into every single aspect of every single showcase, I've picked a handful of reveals and whatnot from it, just so we're sort of going through, not everything, but all the sort of the core bits of information that you really sort of needed to pay attention to over the past, 6 days. It's just been that crazy of a week. So we get stuck right into it, and we're going to talking about Assassin's Creed. Helps if I bring up the right screen. Specifically, we're going to talk about Assassin's Creed Mirage, which was officially unveiled during Ubisoft's Forward event back on Sunday. So this was leaked, as with every Assassin's Creed game, from the very first one. Back in 2012, with Altair, that leaked. Then the one with Ezio a year later, that leaked, and pretty much every other Assassin's Creed ever has leaked. So even the movie leaked. So this was the official reveal of it. Its full title is Assassin's Creed Mirage. It is set 20 years before the events of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you meet a character called Basim. He is a wizened assassin. He knows what he's doing. This is his story. So this is 20 years before he was an assassin. He starts out as a street rat. And I say street rat because the game is actually set in Baghdad. So we got a few, bits and pieces. So it's back to the classic white look. The very early games really sort of, were a big component of. The thing that's very, very cool is that, so Basim, he's not an assassin and from the get-go, which is generally how these games tend to work. I don't think, apart from Altair, we've never really, and obviously the Ezio trilogy, but we'll count those as a separate thing. But for every time there's been a new assassin, we've never really, been like, this is the guy who knows exactly what he's doing. So again, it is set in the city of Baghdad. It is set, as I said, 20 years before the events of Valhalla. But the reason why this is interesting is purely because it's not going to be the size of Valhalla. So it's not just that they're sort of scaling things back in terms of, the character, the number of characters, putting the main character back in the white outfit. The big thing with this one is that they are focusing more on it's not scale, I suppose is probably the best word for it, but so they're making the game fit into the old style of game. So the combat still may be the modern stuff, but it's not going to be a world that's 700 square miles. It's going to take you 40 months to complete and get through. It's going to be a very small, localized sort of experience, which I'm very excited for, purely because with all these things that have been happening with these games, like, you know, I played through Assassin's Creed Origins. I had that, you know, for review, and I pumped through that for review. But there's still so much content I didn't touch on. And then when Odyssey came out like a year later, you know, that was even bigger, right? So even with Odyssey, I never got through all the content in that game. Because it was just so big, it was so much content, it was impossible to finish everything in sort of, you know, the time frame that I had for it. And Valhalla, I mean, I didn't even attempt to review that one. I knew I wouldn't have time for it. But, you know, they started making these games so big, and it's like, at what point does too big, you know, is too big, you know, too big? So the fact that, you know, they've already said they're scaling things down on this one, moving it away from, you know, the grandness of the Valhalla and the Odysseys and Origins, and focusing back on a more narrow story, I suppose, is probably a way to say it. You know, I'm very excited for that. As part of Ubisoft Forward, though, they also did reveal that there is more coming for Assassin's Creed. So specifically, we got the reveal of 3 more Assassin's Creed games. None of them actually have names yet; they're all just project names. But one is mobile phone specific, one, you know, the next, and the other 2 are all console specific. So the first one that we got to look at was the mobile game. It's called Assassin's Creed Codename Jade at the moment. I'll just throw this here trailer on. So the big thing with this one is it is the mobile. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're a mobile gamer, obviously, you know, with Bluetooth controllers and whatnot. You know, some people may connect their iPad or their Android tablet to a TV or a monitor, connect a Bluetooth controller, and just enjoy it on a full screen anyway. So, the big thing with this one is it's set in China. So this is the second Assassin's Creed game to have been set in China. The first one being the side-scroller series that Climax Studios out in the UK did, which I think was just called Assassin's Creed China, from memory. But yeah, so the big thing with this one though is the character that you play as. It's not, you know, this character. It's not this specific person from history that, you know, has done something. It's literally the character you want it to be. So you can completely customize the character to suit, you know, what you want from the game. So that's very, very cool. That it's not just, you know, oh, you can have the male or female version of the character we've designed. It's no, you can create the version of the character you want. The second game that was announced is called Assassin's Creed Codename Red, and this is the next full console one. So Valhalla, if we call Valhalla a full experience, Mirage is the best way to describe Mirage is probably, you know, it's the Blood Dragon, you know, version of you know, Valhalla. So I don't say that to be mean, but okay. So if you recall, Far Cry 5, you know, released, and then like a year and change later, we had the sort of Wasteland version of Far Cry 5, which honestly the subtitle for that one eludes me now. New Dawn. So it's just Far Cry New Dawn. So it's the same map, you know, slightly refined mechanics, bits and pieces were different, but overall it was, you know, just more of the same. So Mirage is that in terms of scale, right? It's not the big thing. Whereas Assassin's Creed Codename Red is the next big one. You know, it's the Far Cry 6 to Far Cry 5, right? So the big thing with this one though is it is set in Japan. The studio developing is Ubisoft Quebec. They're the ones that did Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Assassin's Creed Syndicate back in the day. Syndicate was the last one they did before they took some time off to reboot the series. This is the one that a lot of people are, you know, hopeful for, because, you know, for years they've been saying, hey, give us an Assassin's Creed in Japan, right? We want Assassin's Creed in Japan. And yeah, so we don't know when this is coming. You know, we don't know if this is a late 2023 game, if this is a 2024 or a 2025. We literally have no details on it. The official trailer isn't really a trailer. It's literally just somebody dressed as a shinobi, you know, landing on the rooftop and then having a sword out behind them. That's really it. There's not much more we can show for that one, unfortunately. Excuse me. The final one that we got a detail, or, you know, a name for, project name for, was Assassin's Creed Codename Hexi. Now I did say Hex-E, so it's not Hex, it's Hexi. The big thing with this one, obviously, is, if you look at the icon there, it's the Assassin's Creed. The Assassin's symbol is made out of twigs and tied together with string, which is a big sort of thing for, Salem and the witch trials, parts of sort of Western and Eastern Europe a couple of hundred years ago. I personally am leaning towards Salem. I think an Assassin's Creed game set within the period of the witch trials would be kind of fun. It may be a little too close to, Assassin's Creed 3 timeline-wise. Just with, the setting of that one and all that, they're very, very... They're not next door to each other, but it would be like, if Assassin's Creed Syndicate had Assassin's Creed, that was set in London, if there was another one set in Paris, 20 years later. Unity was set, there's a big time difference between those two. So, but yeah, this one's literally just the reveal of the logo. There's, again, nothing to show there. The other thing they talked about was Infinity, which is sort of, it's their multiplayer hub for the series going forward. Some people have likened it to being like a Fortnite-style hub. That doesn't hold water. You can't have a Fortnite-style hub and then have, full games from it. It doesn't work. If you're thinking PlayStation Home, Second Life, things like that. Even essentially The Sims, right? Something where it's more akin to you having your own personality, your own persona there, and enjoying it. That would make more sense rather than the Fortnite example. But it is what it is there. In addition to Ubisoft Forward, again over the weekend, there was also the D23 Expo. Now, in terms of what was shown at the D23 Expo, we got a new look for some Star Wars shows. We got a new look for, some Marvel games. Some of them we're not talking about here because it's just, there's nothing known about them, so there's no point. Marvel's Midnight Suns, which was delayed recently to an unknown date, has now actually been dated for this December. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that's sort of been revealed from that. And one of the things we're going to look at, though, is we're going to look at some of the Disney Plus TV shows coming this year. So specifically, there are two really big shows that are coming this year. One is a spin-off of the movie franchise. The other is sort of a sequel to it. So the first one is that the Santa Clauses, which is premiering on November 16th for Disney Plus, has Tim Allen returning along with Elizabeth Banks as Mrs. Claus to continue the roles that they did in the Santa Claus movies. Tim Allen's Santa Claus, he's been doing it for many, many years. He's now essentially retired. He's done. He wants to find a successor, and he wants to, just relax and enjoy things going forward. This is supposed to be 8 episodes. It'll probably lead straight into, Christmas, being that it's launching in November 16th. How this shakes out, we'll have to wait and see. The trailer, unfortunately, features an American football player. They're going for a laugh. Probably works in America. Doesn't really work anywhere else because the rest of the world doesn't give a crap about American football players. Especially ones that have retired and are trying to now become actors and all that sort of stuff. The second show that is very, very cool looking is National Treasure: Edge of History. So this is a spin-off sequel to the movies. Now, at the moment, Nicolas Cage has not been named as appearing in the show. Harvey Keitel, who played the FBI agent in both films, and what's his name? Justin something or other. He played Riley Poole, the hacker. Justin Bartha, that's his name. He's doing cameos. But the big sort of thing with this one is that it's a younger cast, it's, new mysteries and all that. And the villain-esque character is played by Catherine Zeta-Jones. We don't know, the number of episodes for this one. Most likely it's around 6 episodes because they tend to be around 6 episodes now. But that's coming on December 14th, so that'll be your sort of holiday break show if you're interested in watching that one. Hopefully Nicolas Cage does make an appearance at some point because it's not really National Treasure without him, but we'll see what happens. We also got a new look for Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. This is another Marvel show. Rather than being done by Marvel Studios, it's done by the Disney Animation Group. It is going on Disney Plus and Disney Channel in the States. it's just another sort of show. It's aimed at, the younger audience, so it is what it is. We got to look at American-born Chinese. This is the sort of fantasy real-world version of, taking all the sort of Chinese mythology and the Chinese martial arts movie style and putting it into like an American high school sort of setting. So Daniel Creston, I know I'm missing a name in there, the director of Shang-Chi, this is what his new project was, and it's got, like Lucy Liu's doing it directing, Michelle Yeoh starring in it, so there's a whole lot of stuff going on with that one. That's expected to launch sometime next year. We don't have a date for it though. Percy Jackson and the Olympians, they've only just started filming this a few months ago, so they don't have a lot for it, but I will put the teaser on here. So what's really cool about this is the dialogue that's being spoken now by Percy Jackson. It's essentially taken from the first couple of lines of the first page of the first book. So when they did the movie adaptations, they made Percy and Annabeth and Grover, they made them much, much older. So the danger really wasn't there for them, having 16, 17-year-olds getting into these sort of scrapes. Whereas in the books, Percy's, 10 and 11, so they're really younger kids. In the movies, Camp Half-Blood, which was, which is what we're seeing here now, it was this sort of idealized summer camp style setting. It didn't really feel like it, was from the books. Whereas this time, the cabins are all over the place. You can see them in their, the gladiatorial sort of armor when they're doing their capture the flag event. So it looks and sounds like it's adhering to the books better. So that's very, very cool. We got another trailer for the second season of The Proud Family, Louder and Prouder, along with Big Shot Season 2. And then for the holidays, they confirmed some new specials. So Best in Snow, Pentatonics Around the World for the holidays, and the Hip Hop Nutcracker. Specifically what those are about, we have no idea because they've not given any details. So yeah, so there's a lot of stuff sort of coming to Disney Plus from the Disney group, but there's also something coming, next year from Marvel Studios, and we've got our first trailer for Secret Invasion. Secret Invasion obviously is the storyline from the comics where the Skrulls, which are the shapeshifter aliens, have been, replacing people of power, around the world, taking over the presidency of the United States, the Prime Minister of, say, Japan, all this sort of stuff, becoming, bigger and bigger, taking over more and more places to become threats. And until somebody dies, you never know if somebody's actually a Skrull or not, because the big thing is that they can fool DNA scanners. So, you could be sitting next to somebody and they could be a Skrull and you'd never know it in this storyline. But, if they die, then they revert back. So we did get our first trailer for it. It is definitely one that you should watch with audio, so I'll throw it here in the chat. It does look very, very cool. Obviously, Samuel L. Jackson's back as Nick Fury. Ben Mendelsohn is back as Talos. He was the Skrull, sort of was the antagonist for the first half of Captain Marvel. He also popped up at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, when it was revealed that Nick Fury was a Skrull. How long Nick Fury's been a Skrull, that's sort of something nobody knows yet, because it was a big twist. Was it just after the Avengers stuff? Was it something else entirely? Who knows? We don't know, and maybe this show will address it. We also got to see, Emilia Clarke, so that girl from Game of Thrones. She's in there. We got to see, Kobu Smulders, Maria Hill, she was in there for a while. And Don Cheadle was back, obviously, as, Rhodey, War Machine, so we'll have to see what happens there. But, all in all, I said, we got a new trailer for The Mandalorian Season 3, we got a new trailer for Star Wars Tales of the Jedi, we got a first look at the characters for Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures, which is sort of a TV show aimed at, the 3 to 5 year old group. It's set in the High Republic era, which it'll make it the first show set in that era. But it's it's like Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, same that sort of style of show. We got our first look photo wise for Skeleton Crew, which is the new show that stars Jude Law and is done by Mark Webb, who's the director of the recent Spider-Man trilogy. So, you know, those people that were, you know, fortunate enough to A, go to the expo, and B, get into the panel, got to see some footage from that show. Lucasfilm showed off some stuff from Indiana Jones 5. We got a new trailer for Willow. It was a loaded weekend, and that's not even getting into the parks stuff, the fact that Disney Cruise Line is coming to Australia. So there's a lot of stuff going on. That was the weekend. Then, you know, Monday was pretty quiet because, you know, people were recovering from the weekend. But then, you know, Tuesday came and we got our first sort of big out-of-nowhere announcement, and that is that Koei Tecmo are partnering with EA Originals to develop a new game. So the details on this one are very, very light. We know that it's coming, but other than that, we don't have anything specific. We know that it's called a hunting game. So, and this singular piece of art is all we have for what it is. So the overall design of it makes people think it's going to be something akin to Monster Hunter. Maybe just the Koei Tecmo version of Monster Hunter. It could be something like, you know, we just had, you know, a Way of the Hunter release. You know, and we've had Call of the Wild recently as well, and then more American style hunting with, you know, guns hunting for bucks and you know, mountain lions and all that sort of stuff. We don't know. We just know it's a hunting game, but we don't know what type of hunting. The interesting part though is that you know, so it's a Koei Tecmo game, and they're not exactly hard up for cash. You know, they do. You know, they did Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes recently with Nintendo. We'll get to it in a moment, but they announced their new game with PlayStation during the week. So not really hard up on cash. They do really, really well for themselves. So to see them sort of saying, "Hey, no, we have a show, we have a game we're partnering with EA for," leads us to believe that, hey, you know, this is something that they believe in, but they want some assistance to get it out globally. Generally speaking, Koei Tecmo games, you know, they fall into the Warriors series, you know, which do fairly well, or, you know, they develop for other publishers. So the fact that they're sort of saying, hey, this is our own game, and we know we've got something special, you know, but they need sort of the marketing and distribution muscle of a Western company. That seems to me as to why they've gone this route. You know, again, there's literally nothing for it. Koei Tecmo are at TGS, you know, as we speak. So maybe we'll see. Maybe we'll learn something from the show for it. It is interesting. I don't know personally if it's going to be, you know, something entertaining or you know, intriguing. Purely because we know nothing about it. So we don't know a release window, we don't know platforms, we literally just have that single piece of concept art, and even that may not be the final form of it, you know. So concept art can vary wildly from what's released publicly to what, you know, the final version ends up looking like. Right, moving on, we're going to jump straight into some of the top stories from the Nintendo Direct. This was expected purely because Nintendo have done a Direct State of the Week, usually the week before TGS. You know, for the last couple of years. This year they did it the week of TGS, and I think it just lined up better with their dates, because there's been a few games that were revealed during that showcase that have been talked about, you know, by Square Enix and other publishers already, and I think they just needed to align those things, you know, better for that. But the first thing we're going to talk about is The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. Now, this is the official title of the Breath of the Wild sequel. It is set in the same world as Breath of the Wild, and it is set within, you know, an expanded version of that. So, Tears of the Kingdom, it's set, for all we know, it's set, you know, pretty recently after the events of Breath of the Wild. In the debut trailer from back at E3 2019, it has been that long. We got to see, you know, Link and Zelda exploring some sort of, you know, crypt beneath the castle. It went skyward at the end after some sort of mummified body sort of came to life and snapped at them. The last trailer we saw had Link running around, you know, using his arm as a way of controlling objects, and, you know, reversing through the ground. We see a little bit more of that sort of stuff here. So, you know, we know that, you know, a lot of this stuff will take place on islands in the sky. We don't know if these are islands that have always been in the sky, a la, Skyloft from Skyward Sword, or if, whatever caused the castle to rise up has, ripped up chunks of Hyrule as well. We do know that the actual land mass of Hyrule will be bigger itself, so there'll be more to see on the ground as well than there was in Breath of the Wild. Sorry, let me rephrase that. There'll be more land to run around than there was in Breath of the Wild. How much there is to see, though, we'll have to wait and see for that one. The fact that we got a name is very, very cool, but we also got a release date of May 12th, 2023. When they said, they needed more time, it was going to get delayed to 2023, a lot of people were hoping and praying that the game would release on March 3rd, just a bit of symbolism there. But, if we look at, even if we say, cool, they missed it by, 2 months, that's fine, whatever. But the fact that it'll have been 6 years between when Breath of the Wild released and the sequel released. We obviously have had, Link's Awakening remake in there, Skyward Sword HD in there as well. But those weren't done by the Zelda team. Apart from, the Master Quest, DLC, and the bike. They've really just been focused purely on this, sequel. And they've been working on it essentially for 5 years. Or it will have been 5 years by the time this game is released. So, yeah, it isn't... it's not surprising. Zelda games tend to have very long development cycles now. Obviously, the exception to that is, Majora's Mask, that released, about 18 months after the Ocarina of Time did. And any game that's not developed by Nintendo. So, Twilight Princess HD and Skyward Sword HD were done by Tantalus here in Melbourne, in Australia. They're now known as Keywords Australia, because they got bought out last year. Link's Awakening, the remake of that, and then the 3DS games. Those were the 3DS remakes. Those were done by Grezzo. So we've had a lot of external developer support for the series. Hey McCaskey, back in the day we also had Capcom. They made the Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons games for the Game Boy Color, and then they also did Minish Cap on the Game Boy Advance. So, if we take out all these sort of external studios, the main Zelda team generally pumps out a game now, every 5 years or so. So this is not too unexpected that it's taking a bit longer, but it is what it is. Something else that was announced during the showcase, during the Direct, was the next Fire Emblem game. So Fire Emblem Engage is actually a full, it's a full, tactical RPG akin to the regular Fire Emblem stuff. The big thing with this one, obviously, apart from the protagonist having protagonist hair, being that it's bright red and bright blue at the same time, the big thing here is that this is, the next full tactical RPG. So the last one was obviously Three Houses, which launched pretty soon after the Switch did. A year after the Switch did, I should say now. But they also did Awakenings, on the 3DS, which really brought the series back to life in the West. And this is sort of the next version of that. The big thing with this, obviously, though, is the system where you're able to summon the spirits of classic Fire Emblem characters, which they call them emblems. So you're able to summon the spirit of Marth or Roy, or whoever you happen to be able to summon at the time, into the game to give you support in battle. We don't know the scale of that system, how big it's going to be. Will it be that we're having more and more larger battles? Will it just be having them on your team gives you some buffs to do some more damage? We don't know those details. What we do know is that the game is actually coming out on January 20th. So this game technically leaked. We saw some screenshots leak a couple of months ago. But this is the first sort of game that we've seen, and from Nintendo be announced and dated, within 6 months. Technically, you could say it was within 4 months, right? If they actually hit it, though, that's the more important thing, because Nintendo has done this before. They announced Advance Wars at E3 2021 for a release in December. It got delayed till April this year, and then because of the war, they've basically said, "Hey, it's finished, but we're just not going to release it for some time." So, obviously, the big thing with this one is it's back to the the tactical action, because the last Fire Emblem's game was the Warrior style, which is the Muso. If you're not a fan of the Fire Emblem, series, the whole tactical thing, it's probably not going to change your minds. This one has some better looking visuals than Three Houses did, or the fact that the main character has protagonist hair. The interesting thing too, like the protagonist, I keep making that joke. They've got blue hair on the left side and red hair on the right side of their face, but their eyes are the opposite. Their left eye is red and their right eye is blue. So they've fully leaned into the whole protagonist lifestyle for this game. We do know there is also a special edition. They're calling it the Divine Edition. It comes with a game, steelbook, and some, an art book and bits and pieces like they tend to do. But that's really all that one is. As I said, January 20, that's coming out, and that should be fairly good for then. Also, as part of the Direct, we also got the next wave of N64 games announced as coming to Nintendo Switch Online. Now, when I say wave announced, what I'm specifically referring to is the games themselves. We don't have dates for them. We don't know which ones are releasing when. We just know what the games are. So the games in question are Mario Parties 1, 2, and 3, Pilot Wings 64, Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2, 1080 Snowboarding, Excite Bike 64, and GoldenEye, so from the Nintendo 64. The reason why these are sort of big gets is, Mario Party, those games, a lot of those mini games are are included in the Super Mario Party release, that's already on Switch. But the boards were not, right? We only got like 4 boards in that game. It's really anemic. But this one, they all have like 4 boards a pop. So they're all there, plus with, 50, 60, 70 mini games in each game. There's a lot going in. So you can see here on the timeline, we know that... let me drop back a little bit here and pause the video. Yeah. So we know Pilot Wings, Mario Party 1 and Mario Party 2 are coming out this year. And then the other games are all next year. And then obviously you said, GoldenEye is coming as well. We know it is coming this year. We just don't know when this year. If Nintendo keep up their release cadence, we've been getting one game a month since they announced it last year. The first, the first wave of titles, said to be coming, ran out back in April, and we sort of just did a month-to-month release since then. So if we get Pilot Wings this month, we may get GoldenEye next month, then Mario Party November, and then Mario Party in December. And then, 5 more months into next year will bring us to June, where, E3's back in person next year, so we'll probably have an announcement of the next sort of wave of titles there. Obviously, that's just speculation. There's nothing, that they've said publicly that is confirming or denying that. But yeah, it is nice to see that we have more games coming to the service. What is kind of cool, though, is while it wasn't included in the Direct, just 2 days afterwards, we got the reveal of 3 new games hitting the Mega Drive application on the console. So, when the Nintendo 64 app launched last October, the day that launched, we also got the Mega Drive app, which adds Mega Drive games to the service. With the addition of Beyond Oasis, Alicia Dragoon, and Earthworm Jim, there are now 29 Mega Drive games available as part of the subscription. So if you have the Nintendo 64, collection, if you have the expansion pack, which gives you the Nintendo 64 and the Mega Drive, with the 29 Mega Drive games and the 26, might be a little bit less than that, N64 games, you've got 50, 60 games to enjoy as part of it, and they're all pretty good games. What I do chuckle about, though, with this one is Earthworm Jim. Obviously, this is the American trailer, so it says Sega Genesis, not Mega Drive, so just ignore that. But what I think is great is that Earthworm Jim is included as part of the Sega Mega Drive game update for the month. If I can just skip ahead to it. Which is great. But it's also weird because Earthworm Jim 2 released a couple of months ago for the Super Nintendo app. So it wasn't as if they said, hey, we're putting Earthworm Jim 1 from the Super Nintendo in as well. So if you want to play both the games in the series, before they went to the third dimension, if you want to play both, you have to have the expansion pack, because the first game is in the expansion pack only, whereas the second game is available for all members. So it's a little weird, they did it that way. I can understand why they've done it that way, because they need to bolster the Mega Drive lineup, but it's just it's kind of silly. Right, that's Nintendo done for that. Let's move on to the state of play from PlayStation. So the state of play, obviously, they announced that 24 hours before it went live, as Nintendo did with their Direct. This is the first time, though, that we've had, we had Nintendo at midnight. They ran through to 12:45 a.m. and then at 8 a.m. the same day we had PlayStation. To put it into context, we've not had these two companies ever on the same day. There's been a day between them at E3, when PlayStation were at E3, and even when they've done State of Plays and Directs, we've maybe had them a week apart at times, but we've never had them on the same day, so this was a big thing. And then, we also had 2 Xbox showcases over the next 2 days as well, so it was definitely a loaded week in terms of shows. The State of Play was only 20 minutes in length. They didn't really showcase a lot of stuff for this year, outside of ending with God of War. A lot of the stuff they showed was for 2023 and even 2024. But these are the ones that sort of stood out to me. Obviously, God of War Ragnarok got a new story trailer. I won't play the trailer, because you do need to sort of listen to some of the dialogue for it. What is very, very cool, though, it is coming November 9th for PS5 and PS4. It's probably going to be the last PlayStation 4 game from Sony. But they also announced a new God of War themed DualSense 5 controller, which features the Arctic white that we sort of have now. But the controller is primarily also they have a color for it. They have a name for the color. Let me see if I actually have it in here. Cool blue is what they officially call the blue. It sort of wraps around from the front around to the back. But then on the touchpad, we also have the 2 wolves representing Kratos and Atreyu. So it's a very, very cool looking controller color-wise. I don't like the wolf pattern on it. I think that's a little cheap. On my PlayStation 4 Star Wars controller, I actually just have the word Star Wars repeated across the thing. Even if they just had written God of War in runes, across it, that would have been much cooler in my mind than, just a cheap Etsy looking wolf print. I said, it does look cool. The trailer is really, really cool. Shows how far Kratos is willing to go for his son and his son's mission. We don't know what the mission is, but it's cool that it's there. Another game that stood out to me was the reveal of Like a Dragon Ishin, which is coming out in February. So Like a Dragon Ishin is part of the Yakuza series. However, the Yakuza series as we know it is dead. They're actually changing the name of that series. So the big thing going forward for that series is it's now officially called Like a Dragon. So the last one we had was Yakuza Like a Dragon. It's now just going forward to be called Like a Dragon. So Ishin is a remake of a PlayStation 3 game, so it's not a completely original thing, but it features, basically the cast of the older Yakuza games, back in feudal Japan style. We do have more information from this one because there was a Ryoga Kotoka Studios presentation as part of TGS, because again, TGS is happening. So again, it does feature that same standard look that we've now come to expect from the studio, with incredible detail across the board for it. I will not play the trailer for this one because there are some questionable moments, but it does look very, very cool. The fact, though, that this was announced, in September and it's coming out in February is a very big turnaround for this studio. The final game from the State of Play that really caught my eye is another one from Team Ninja, but this one's not coming out till 2024. We also got, confirmation that Hogwarts Legacy which is, been tied to PlayStation for all its marketing. They're getting an exclusive mission to both PS4 and PS5 versions of that game. It's not a random mission, it's a pretty meaty one from all reports. We also got, the official naming of a game that was previously known as Project Eve. That's now called Stellar Blade. We got a new title from Bandai Namco called Sin Duality. So there's a whole bunch in there, but this is the one that sort of got me, and this is called Rise of the Ronin. So Rise of the Ronin is a PlayStation 5 exclusive. So this is not a PS4, PS5 hybrid game. This is not, revealed during a PlayStation event, but coming to everything else like a Dragon Ishin. No, this is purely PlayStation 5. No PC, nothing else. And the reason why this one's very, very cool, and the reason I sort of bring it up is because, earlier in the show we talked about Assassin's Creed Red, which is the sort of Assassin's Creed that's being made in Japan. And this one essentially makes me think of Assassin's Creed. The gameplay systems remind me very much of, Odyssey and Valhalla. The setting obviously is, feudal Japan, sort of, the late sort of 1700s, early 1800s. But everything about this to me just screams, and then this part especially, it just makes me think Assassin's Creed. So the combat, obviously, they're doing the samurai thing that we saw from Ghost of Tsushima. But they're sort of embracing the more modern aspect of Japan with the things. But yeah, I think it looks very, very cool. I will put that one in the chat as well, because it is something that is very, very exciting for me. Obviously, though, that one's 2024, so it's going to be quite a number of years away. But it will have some company, because also in 2024 we will see the release of Like a Dragon 8. So this is tying back to the Like a Dragon Ishin, as I said, with the permanent name change. So the last one was Yakuza Like a Dragon, which was technically Yakuza 7. Yakuza 6 was the one before that. This is, the next mainline entry in the Yakuza series, or Yakuza series, but because of the permanent name change, instead of being called Yakuza 8, it's now Like a Dragon 8. The trailer doesn't really show anything. It just shows, Kiryu, who's the dude with the grey hair. He's been the protagonist from all the other games, and then Ichiban, which is the protagonist from Yakuza Like a Dragon, the one that sort of really gave the series a shot in the arm here in the West. That's there for people to watch and enjoy. It is very interesting. People had a very fond farewell with Kiryu, so to see him back in another mainline game is sort of confusing some people. Ichiban, his hair is different. It's not the big, weirded out hairstyle that he's had in the past, but it is what it is. The game was shown off during, it was announced during the Ryuga Gotoku Studios event, which they also deep dived into Ishin a little bit more. They had some of the actors come back on stage to talk about returning to the roles that they did, many, many years ago. The strange thing is this game is not coming out till 2024. Now, it could mean January 1st, 2024. It could mean December 31st, 2024. But it's been announced for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, as well as, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. The odds of it landing on those two platforms are very slim. And I say that purely because, by 2024, we'll be in the fourth year of, the next-gen consoles. And they could stick to it, but I think they're going to realize, much like, say, Warner Brothers did with Gotham Knights, there's very limited, space for getting these things done, before, things change, before, somebody has to get in there and say, hey, we have to cut a console generation because, we need to focus on the next gen. It may do it, it may not do it. I don't think it will, personally. I don't think they'll realize pretty quickly they can do more with the newer stuff and just leave the others alone. The final game that was announced during the Ryuga Gotoku Studio event was Like a Dragon Gaiden, the Man Who Erased His Name. That is the weirdest title that I've ever seen in a game. So the Like a Dragon, as I said, it's the the new name for the Yakuza series. Gaiden is the Kiwami. It's sort of not the spin-off, but it's separate sort of thing. And the man who erased his name is the main subtitle. The big thing with this one is it's actually a connecting game. So we said before, that Kiryu is back in Like a Dragon 8, but people said goodbye to him in Yakuza 6. So it raises the question: why is a character that everyone said goodbye to now back in another mainline game? This is the game that explains that. The trailer itself doesn't show anything off. It just shows him talking to somebody behind him. Then he stands up, stares out over his garden, and it's sort of the name appears on the screen. As I said, the fact that it connects between Yakuza 6 and Like a Dragon 8 is interesting. This one, however, I don't believe we had a date for it. Late next year. So, it could be interesting. We'll have to wait and see for that one. Moving away from showcase news, we actually got something related for The Sims, which is a big change for the series. Specifically, The Sims 4 is going free to play on October 18th. Now, I will specify upfront, the free to play game is just the base game. So if you have never played The Sims before, or Sims 4 before, you want to play it, and you're a Star Wars fan, you see that Batu content pack, you can get the base game for free, but you have to pay for the content pack. If you see the outdoor expansion where you can go off to a new area, that is not free, that is a paid thing. So very, very similar to say how like Elder Scrolls Online does things. You can play the game for free, but if you want the expansions, you have to pay for them in some form. This is the same sort of thing. You get the base game for free, but all the content packs and the expansions, they require a fee. We also got word that they're going to be holding a showcase event on October 19th at 4 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Standard Time, or 3 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. It's 10 a.m. Los Angeles time, so I think it's probably 4 p.m. UK time. It's interesting, they do these sort of events all the time, but this is the first one they've really specially called out, and it ties into this announcement. They've got more things to talk about and detailing it. The fact that presentation is coming the same day that it is going free to play is a little weird, but it is what it is, I suppose. Speaking of a little weird, Deathloop is finally losing its PlayStation console exclusivity and coming to Xbox Series X and S on September 20th. This was unfortunately spoiled by Xbox, like they love to do with their marketplace. We see it all the time with game listings going live on the marketplace before the game's been announced. This one was done as an ad on the Xbox dashboard about Deathloop. Now, we knew this was going to happen. The exclusivity for Deathloop for PlayStation as the console only was for 12 months. The fact that it is hitting Xbox a year to the day after the game launched on PlayStation 5 is the interesting part. Now, where things get a little more interesting is PlayStation 5 owners, still have the game, it's all there. PC owners can get the game now, they can buy it and all that. On the 20th of September, the game will be launching into Game Pass for Xbox and PC. So if you have a PC but you don't own the game yet, you can get it on Game Pass then. If you don't have a PC or an Xbox Series X or S, you can actually still play this game on your Xbox One through cloud gaming. So through Xbox Cloud Streaming, you can stream, an Xbox Series X game to your Xbox One console, should you so desire. That is obviously very, very cool that they're doing it. That's why they've been a little vague in their messaging. They keep saying coming to Xbox on September 20, not coming to Xbox Series X and S on September 20, because it is technically available to Xbox One players just through the cloud. There is no native version. You can't download and install it to the console because it's not made for the Xbox One generation. But if you do have an Xbox One and cloud gaming, you can get it through that. The big news for it, though, I didn't actually put it in here, but the Golden update is releasing on the same day. The Golden update, adds a whole bunch of fixes and features and all that sort of stuff to the game. But the big thing is it adds cross-platform multiplayer. So at the, previously it was just, if you're on PS5, it was PS5 games that joined in, PC players had PC players joining in. With this update, it'll mean that if you're playing on Xbox Series X and S, a PlayStation 5 Juliana can join your game and hunt you down. Vice versa, if you're playing on your PlayStation 5, somebody from the Xbox community can jump in and try and hunt you down. So it's very, very cool that update's coming. It does feature a lot more than just, the cross-play, but that's sort of a big thing because, that was one of the big hooks for the game in the first place. That obviously was revealed during the Xbox showcase for Tokyo Game Show. As always, anything Tokyo Game Show, they focus on Japan first, the rest of the world second. That's the way it's always been. Tokyo cares about Tokyo, which makes sense, right? Well, Japan cares about Japan, I suppose. Xbox obviously did host the showcase in a number of languages. Usually it was just subtitled. Sometimes they had some dub stuff. Sometimes they just played English trailers instead. So it was nice to see them sort of catering. One of the big things, though, was that they announced 3 new games were launching into Xbox and PC Game Pass during the showcase, and they are now available for everyone. So Assassin's Creed Odyssey has been doing gangbusters in Japan, to the fact that the game is actually on Switch through cloud gaming. If you have a Switch and you have the eShop open in Japan, you can get Assassin's Creed Odyssey. That is not available on any other country, right, for Switch. It is only for Japan because it's done so well for Ubisoft there. So as part of the showcase, they announced that Assassin's Creed Odyssey is going to Game Pass for both PC and console. Ni no Kuni: Wrath of the White Witch Remastered, which is the first game, that was dropped into Game Pass. Ni no Kuni 2, which launched a couple of years ago, that's coming next year for Game Pass. And then Danganronpa 3 or version 3 is also in Game Pass. So these all just sort of dropped during the showcase, so they're all there now to enjoy. It's very, very cool. People were expecting at least one Game Pass announcement purely because we did get one from the show last year. We had Scarlet Nexus from Bandai Namco was added to Game Pass during it. So it's very, very cool that they did 3 this time instead of just the 1. The final sort of announcement I want to talk about from the Xbox showcase was that Overwatch 2 has a new character revealed in Kikiro. So the new character, it's a ninja girl. She's got a spirit wolf animal that that she can support with. But the big thing, there's details there about her, her abilities and such. Is with this announcement, we also got details on how the season's going to work. So I'll pop the trailer on here. This is the Switch version of the trailer, purely because it was just the one at the top of my list. So when October 5 rolls around for us here in Australia, with the release of the early access for Overwatch 2, the first season of the content will be available as well. With that, there will be 3 new characters. So Sojourn was announced when the game was, Junker Queen was announced back at E3, and then obviously now Kiriko. Sojourn and Junker Queen will be unlockable to everyone day 1, whereas Kiriko will be a little different. If you do not buy the Battle Pass, which is a big thing for every shooter these days, you can unlock Kiriko by playing through the game and basically grinding, to earn the ability to unlock her. Or if you do buy the Battle Pass, it's an instant unlock. If you do get the Battle Pass, there's, gun skins and all sorts of bits and pieces like these for all of them. If you choose not to, you can just get the basic free stuff. We also got confirmation that the first seasonal event will take place on October 26th. It'll kick off then, and that is Junkenstein's Revenge: The Wrath of the Bride. And that'll run for 2 weeks over Halloween, because it's a Halloween themed event. But there's also a big change in the way that characters are being introduced for competitive play, and that is that they're not. So specifically, the way that it's going to work is that characters will be released into the game, available for private matches. So you can jump in and you can start playing as, let's say, Billy Bob is the next character to be added. You can play as him for a couple of weeks. In that time, feedback will always be given, you know, when changes are made to characters. Once Blizzard have, you know, balanced the character based on the real world playstyles of people using them, then they'll make the changes and then welcome them into competitive play. It is a different way of doing it. Rather than just dumping characters in, they're going to take their time and get it going correctly, which is very, very cool. How long they stick with that, we'll have to wait and see. I just give them credit for trying, you know, rather than releasing everything and then having to spend the next 2 weeks, you know, doing hot fixes and patches to you know, make the character playable, or, you know, make them so they're not like god tier. That's probably, you know, one of the big things for it. Right, moving on, we're going to sort of jump through some of these next stories, just purely because, you know, we do have still a number to get through. So I'm making a note of something. The big thing, obviously, for the thing yesterday was that there was a bunch of, you know, showcase events. Some of them, you know, were not that great because they weren't really filled with anything. Some of them were pretty cool. But one of them that was filled with a lot of content was the Bandai Namco session. So I say session because they actually hosted 3 separate streams over the period of like 6 hours. So they did one stream for an hour and a half, then they took like a half an hour break, then they were back for a bit, then had another break, and then they were back again, right? The first stream was all dedicated to Dragon Ball games. So Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is getting a new season pass. It's getting a new update for Xbox Series X and S and PlayStation 5. And then Dragon Ball The Breakers, you know, they detailed Majin Buu and the Farmer as a new character. But another one of their sessions focused on One Piece Odyssey, specifically giving the game its release date. The game was always planned to release in 2022. They have just missed that by a couple of weeks. The game is now set to launch in January of 2023, specifically on the 13th. As part of that, we did get a new trailer. We also got details that there will be a regular edition, a deluxe edition, and a collector's edition. The collector's edition should be available in Australia in some form. We just don't know yet. Sometimes Bandai Namco will do these collector's editions, but they make it exclusive to their own store, which they don't have an Australian version of it, so it's all done through Europe. And sometimes, because of the size of them, they will not, you know, ship them to Australia, because sometimes they come with really detailed figurines, and, you know, if they break, Bandai Namco don't want that, you know, sort of experience to fans, so they just, you know, say no across the board. I think there is a shot of the thing at the very end. There we go. So yeah, it's just a standard thing. Comes with the game, steelbook, and obviously, you know, in-game items and all that, and then a bunch of the figurine. I know a few people that are very, very excited for this one because it's, you know, it's a new One Piece game for one, but it's also a big sort of adventure. You know, it's an RPG sort of style thing, so it looks very, very cool. They also hosted a Star Ocean event. This was on Thursday nights. This was the night before. But during that, they announced that Star Ocean, The Divine Force, is actually getting a demo next week. So what's very, very cool for this is the demo is going to offer around 2 hours of gameplay. The problem is we don't know if any of the progress you make in the demo will be carried across. So Square Enix have been doing it a lot lately. Like Harvestella has a demo, and progress from the demo will carry across to the full game. So there's a fair chance that it will, but they just haven't confirmed it, and that's the part that's sort of worrying some people, is that the fact they haven't announced it is you know, confirmation that it's not happening, because why not announce that stuff? Excuse me. The demo is coming to PlayStation and Xbox only, so even though the game is coming to PC, there is no demo for the PC version of the game. They did release, you know, a message from Hyde, who's a Japanese singer who's composed a new song for the game. But yeah, other than that, it's just the fact that there is a demo coming next week, and the full game itself is out on the 27th. Sticking with the demo theme, we actually got word today that Valkyrie Elysium has a demo for PlayStation. So this game is coming out later this month to PS4 and PS5. And, you know, they have a demo for it. With this one, they did confirm that, progress will carry across to the full version of the game. And again, that's why it's a little weird that we haven't had that for the Star Ocean one, because they're both Square Enix games. One, they confirmed transfer of progress across. The other one, they said no. Or haven't said anything, I should say. The only sort of caveat that they're calling out with this one is that if you have the demo on PlayStation 4, and let's say you buy a PlayStation 5, in between the demo releasing, or you playing the demo and then the PS5 version coming out, you cannot transfer your progress from the PlayStation 4 version of demo to the PlayStation 5 retail release, okay? And then you can't transfer your progress from the PS4 demo to the PS5 demo. So if you have plans to get, a PlayStation 5 between today and when this game launches, but you want to play the demo, you have to sort of pick. You either play the demo and then just lose the progress and start again, or you just wait and just do it all fresh when the retail release drops. It's not unexpected. We've never had that ability to transfer demo data from across platforms before, so I wouldn't expect this to be any different. But the fact they called it out is sort of telling, because maybe people have complained they couldn't do it on other demos before. Who knows? The game is also coming to PC, but the PC release isn't happening until November. If there is a demo for that, it'll probably happen closer to the release of the game there. The last demo release that happened from Tokyo Game Show is that Wolong Fallen Dynasty has one for PS5 and Xbox Series platforms. The big difference for this one is the demo's only available for a limited time. Now, we've had this before where demos go up for a week. You can download it, play it whenever you want. This one is a little different in that it's only available to get and play for a week and change. So the demo is available now for both PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S consoles. It will, however, stop working after the 26th of September. So we're on the 17th at the time of recording. So that gets you, 10 days essentially before this demo stops. These things can change. They may opt to turn that off to say, no, you can keep playing it. But, that's probably not going to be the case. If you do finish the demo, you will be rewarded with this dragon helmet that you can wear in the full game when that releases next year. And then in some countries, they're also doing giveaways for the shirt that is being given away to people at Tokyo Game Show if they beat the demo on the show floor there. So you do have a bit more of a luck if you're playing outside of the Tokyo Game Show, because you can play the demo a few times and get used to everything. To me, though, the game just looks more like Dark Souls than anything else. It is from Koei Tecmo, so they do have some good action pedigree stuff, but it just reminds me more of Dark Souls than anything. Speeding through these last few stories, we have a release date for Uncharted Legacy of Thieves on PC. Specifically, the game is coming out on October 20th. This isn't unsurprising. It was added to the Epic Game Store last week for a couple of hours before it was pulled. It was also added to the Epic Game Store's, games to look forward to this year post back in June or July, before it was again pulled to say it was coming out in October. It's not surprising that it's there, but it's good to have the confirmation. As this is the PC version, they will support, ultra widescreen. In terms of, settings, they have the specs. The game does support 4K at 60 frames. Does support ultra wide. So this is Uncharted 4, A Thief's End, and this is Uncharted Lost Legacy. So it's great to see, they're having the full sort of PC, experience for it there. It does have uncapped frame rate, things like that as well. So you will be able to have it running as smoothly as your hardware allows for. This is also the third PC game from PlayStation this year, with God of War back in January, Spider-Man last month in August. I have to think what month that came out in, and obviously this now in October. So I don't think we're going to get any more PC games from them this year, unless they happen to just shadow drop something. But it's nice to see them finally starting to bring their games outside of PlayStation to PC players. Capcom hosted a showcase the other day as well, where we got a lot of details for Monster Hunter, Resident Evil Village Gold Edition, and Street Fighter 6. In the world of Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, the new update 2 is coming out on September 29th. It'll add 3 new beasties into the game. So we knew about the Flaming Espina and the Violet Mizutsune creatures before. So we knew they were coming. That was announced a while ago. We did, however, learn that the Risen Chameleos is being added to the game via the update. And that one is probably one of the most dangerous creatures in the game for hunting. In order to hunt the Flaming Espinas or the Violet Mizutsune, you need to have a master rank of 10, right? So you need to have your master rank, your hunting skills need to be so good, you need to be ranked 10 to get access to those monsters. To access the Risen Chameleos, you need to have your rank be 110. Right, so they're not saying you can do it at any level. They're saying no. To even have a chance, you have to be at rank 110. Obviously, you know, if you hunt them enough, you get enough resources, you can get some armor for it. They're adding new anomaly quests, including raising the level cap for them as well. Layered weapons are being added to the game via this update. So your weapons can look any way you sort of like with a layered look, much like your armor. But, you know, you can have the effects of, you know, a really, really, you know, strong weapon, but have it look like something completely different, which, you know, that's just one of those very, very cool things, which, you know, it was in the series previously, so they're just bringing it back to this one as well. There is also paid DLC, which will add new costumes, hairstyles, makeup, badges, emotes, all that sort of stuff. So that's all there for Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. As I said, that's update 2 coming on September 29th. The third update for the year will be launching sometime in November. Details on that one are a little scarce, and there's more updates coming in 2023. On the Street Fighter side of things, we got new details about the game, including the fact that it is now also coming to PlayStation 4. So previously when the game was announced, it was announced for PS5, PC and Xbox Series X and S. They've now added the PS4 to that list. Most likely it is because of you know, an inability for people to get, you know, next-gen hardware. So, you know, why not take the time to put the game on, you know, a console that has 100+ million, you know, globally around the world. As part of it, we got a new trailer which showcased E Honda, Ken, Blanca and Dalsim. There was also another deep dive event that happened at midnight this morning where they detailed even more characters, but we're not going to talk about that now. As part of this presentation, we got more information on the World Tour mode, which is the single player campaign, if you will, where you can create your own avatar and then have them take part in battles, explore the world, meet up with Ryu, Chun-Li and other characters and learn from them, and then yeah, that's your version, that's your Street Fighter character. So you're not playing as Ryu going through this, you know, preset story. This is your character, you can make the choices. Once you've got your character, you can actually take them into the Battle Hub, and this is the Battle Hub. The Battle Hub is a lobby. So if you want to take part in online fights, this is where you go to do so. At any point, you can sit down at an arcade machine. There's, you know, they're back to back like they are in the arcades, and you can actually jump in and start playing against people there. There'll also be, you know, Street Fighter 2 and you know, Final Fight games in the arcade as well. So you can even play some old retro games in there. As I said, we got, you know, details on some of the characters as well. We also got new details on the mode called Extreme Battle. So the fighting ground is literally just that. It's just a way for you to fight, which is accessed via the Battle Hub. Fighting ground. Extreme Battle is a mode within this game mode where you can do a whole lot of stuff. So, you know, here you can see a bull jumping in. Here there's a ball on the thing, and, you know, they're playing with other things here. The reason why this is sort of like Smash Brothers, where, you know, you're adding items into the mix. It's just a way for you to have more fun with the battles, if you so want to do so. We also learnt that a closed beta test is taking place between October 7 and 10 for all consoles and Steam, and it will also, not all consoles, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and Steam via PC. It will also be cross-play supported, so you'll be able to play on your PlayStation, have battles against Xbox players or PC players, vice versa. We know, you know, it will feature some ranked matches, some casual matches, and a bunch of characters. What was announced overnight, though, that I haven't got to put up on the screen here, but is pretty cool, is that there is a bunch of information for those players who frame count. So frame counting started with the Super Nintendo releases, where people were measuring the number of frames in the animation between when, say, Ryu was standing up with his fist in the air and when he would, do his punch. When the punch would extend to its maximum, they were counting the number of frames in that. This frame counting thing in the training mode will actually show you, okay, the first 6 frames of the animation are idle. There's nothing happening with them. The next 4 are the impact, right? And then the next 10, for example, may be the after effect of the attack. So this is designed for those people that want to know exactly how many frames a character is taking to move. If they're doing a particular type of punch, if they're doing a high punch or a low punch, which one takes the most frames, which one deals the most damage, right? So this is all for that really competitive scene. It's definitely not for the average player. Don't get me wrong, it's very, very cool, but it's not something that, the average Joe Blow is going to care about at all. Because why would they? But yeah, so that's in there. It's in the thing as well. We also got the opening animation for the thing, which confirmed there will be 18 characters at launch in the game. Much like Capcom did with Street Fighter V, there's likely going to be a couple of seasons of content which will add more fighters to the game as well. Finally, Call of Duty Next happened yesterday as well. Call of Duty Next was the first dedicated Call of Duty event where they focused on more than just a single game. We've had these shows before where they're like, hey, Call of Duty Vanguard's coming out, here's an event all about the multiplayer. This was all about the multiplayer for Modern Warfare 2, but it also talked about the mobile version of Warzone and also Warzone 2. I'm not going to get into all the details on this because with what they revealed, there was so much in there. The story has the links to the blogs where they literally detail everything. So Modern Warfare 2's multiplayer is exactly what you would expect it to be. There's a whole bunch of new game modes. There's new weapons, new I was going to call them perks. They're called something else. Maybe skills. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there. We also got, a whole new thing about Gunsmith. Gunsmith is the gun customization system that the Call of Duty series has been using for a number of years now, which lets you customize. You can start with the base gun and then you add your version, the sight you want, the barrel you want, the grip you want, the undersling attachment. Do you want an extended magazine, right? All those bits and pieces. You can actually deep dive into that gun and make it the gun for you. And obviously you can do that for all the different guns in the game. I said Warzone 2.0 got revealed. This is Al Mazrah. This is the new map. There's a big high-rise city. There's a scientific observatory. There's an airport. There's some military bases. It's all there. And then we also got the reveal of Call of Duty Warzone Mobile, which we expected. The big thing for this one is the player cap is increasing to 120. You can watch the whole showcase there as well. It does go for 5 hours. It is a meaty thing because they do like to talk. So it's all there. Now the reason why all this is cool, it's not because it's more multiplayer. Call of Duty not having multiplayer is never going to happen. They're more likely to drop the single player than they are the multiplayer. But the reason why this is a big thing this year is if you play Modern Warfare 2, but you want to play Warzone Mobile, right? Because you prefer just the full multiplayer experience, the dedicated multiplayer in the games, but you like the idea of Warzone, but you're not at home enough to play it. You want to play the mobile version. Going forward, your progress that you earn in one game carries across to the other two. So if you are a die-hard multiplayer, mainstream multiplayer, so you will play nothing but Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer, you can completely dedicate yourself to that for months. When you pick up Warzone Mobile, say in February, whenever it actually does get released, you'll have progress in that game. Okay, but if you then spend 6 months playing nothing but mobile Warzone, and you go, all right, I'm really having fun with this. I haven't really played regular multiplayer from Modern Warfare 2. Let me jump into Warzone for console. the progress carries across. So your unlocks, all that sort of stuff will carry across. So it's one unified account now across the 3 different experiences, which will give you the ability to say, hey, okay, you know, it doesn't matter if I jump back and forth between, because I'm still leveling up in all 3 at the same time, which I think is very, very cool. That is all the news we're going to talk about this week. I said there is so much more. There's so much from the Direct, more from the State of Play, the Xbox Showcase we didn't get through, the ID at Xbox Showcase I didn't get through, the Prime Gaming event that happened, there was the 505 Games Showcase, there was the Konami event, there was 2 Koei Tecmo events. As I said, there was more Bandai Namco stuff we didn't talk about, like the deep dive into Tales of Symphonia Remastered. Didn't get into that either. There's just a lot happening in the world of gaming right now. So, as we're at the end of the episode, that means we need to talk about the games that are coming out over the next few days. Obviously, again, we normally record this on a Friday. No games tend to get released over Saturdays and Sundays. It is possible some company from Japan doing a showcase at TGS may release a game. We've seen it happen like with PAXs and obviously E3s. Unlikely, but just to keep an eye on things. But that means that the next big game to release will be on Monday. And I say Monday, it'll probably be Monday late evening for us, I should say. And that is Return to Monkey Island. That is coming out on PC and Switch. We will have a review of that when the embargo lifts. On the 20th, we'll see the release of Hard Space Shipbreaker for consoles. That is already available on PC. That is, you're in space deconstructing, derelict and abandoned ships. And there's a whole sort of thing going on there. We'll also see the release of Solstice, which is PC, PS5, and Xbox Series platforms. That is Dark Souls-esque type game. Where you're actually one half of a set of twins, and the other twin is actually a ghostly apparition that sort of follows you around. On the 21st, we will see the PC release of Gundam Evolution. It's coming out on PC this week. It's coming out on consoles in December. So still a bit of a release discrepancy there. PC players will also get the release of The Outbound Ghost on the 21st. That essentially is Paper Mario, but with like Casper, right? That's the best way I can describe it. It looks very much like Paper Mario. It looks like it plays very much like Paper Mario. It's Paper Mario but with a ghost. The 22nd is going to be a bit of a big game. Beacon Pines will be releasing for PC, Switch, and Xbox One. It'll also be launching in a Game Pass the same day. That's being published by Fellow Traveller here in Australia. The Deerfield Chronicle will be launching as well for all platforms. There is a demo for that available now if you want to give it a go, with progress from the demo transferring across to the full release. Potion Permit will be releasing for all platforms as well. That's a sort of potion simulator sort of game, with witches and stuff. We'll also see the release of Serial Cleaners for all platforms as well on the 22nd. That is a sequel to Serial Cleaner, which was, released a couple of years ago. This is the sort of follow-up to that one. For everyone but Switch, we will see the release of Session Skate Sim, which is the community sort of focused skate simulator. It's technically available now on PC and Xbox in early access, but its full release will happen next week. On the 23rd, we will see the release of DreamWorks Dragon's Legend of the Nine Realms for all platforms. That is done by Outright Games. They focus more on the younger gamer. So they've done this. They've done Transformers games, Fast and Furious games. They did some My Little Pony stuff, Ben 10 stuff. They've got a Paw Patrol game coming out later in the month as well. So they really focus on the younger gamer. The 23rd will also see the release of Shovel Knight Dig for PC, Switch, and iOS. That is a new spin-off of the Shovel Knight series. And then Switch players will also be able to have Tokyo no Tatsujin Rhythm Festival, which is the drum rhythm game. The 26th, I believe, is the Friday. That's the Monday next week after. The Friday we'll see DreamWorks Dragons, which is based off the Netflix animated show, which is technically connected to the events of the movies in that it's set in the same world, but hundreds of years later. Shovel Knight Dig and Tokyo no Tatsujin will end it out. We still have, Grounded, Tunics coming to a bunch of platforms. Dorf Romantique is coming out later in the month. Railgrade, and then obviously FIFA to sort of round it out. So that's it. That is us done for this episode of the show. We will be back to our regular Friday session next week. We will be back on Tuesday for another episode of the Games Bond series. We will be making more progress through the GoldenEye remake. Where we left off, we just got captured after, the bunker level. How it plays out, we'll have to wait and see, because it is the remake and they have done some big changes story-wise. But yeah, if you did watch the show live and you did enjoy what you saw, be sure to give us a follow. If you did watch the replay, either on Twitch or on YouTube, do make a comment somewhere for us as well. If you do watch on YouTube and you like what we're doing, subscribe, do the thumbs up and all that sort of stuff. Otherwise, we will see you when we're online next time, and until then, happy gaming.